Wow, this was a long overdue interview. Greetings, royal family. Let's get right into it. If you haven't seen by now, Robyn Crawford sat down with Wendy Williams on Wendy Williams Show for a 20-minute interview, 23 minutes or so interview. Now it's crazy because this video was supposed to go up yesterday, but I'm so glad I waited because this interview happened today on Wendy's show. All right, let me start off by saying this. We have to give credit. I don't even want to say credit. We do got to kind of give credit where credit is due. And what I mean by that is, if you remember Radio Wendy, you always hear me talk about Wendy back in the day. Wendy pretty much kind of broke this story as it pertains to Whitney and Robyn's friendship. She broke this story like well over a decade ago, years ago. She talked about it on her radio show, and she always talked about Whitney Houston and Robyn. She talked about Whitney a lot, which was so crazy because it's like she was obsessed with her. So if you remember, Whitney Houston called up to the radio and pretty much gave Whitney called up to the radio and gave Wendy a piece of her mind. So that was like a legendary, read. All right, so Robyn on the Wendy show. So Robyn came out, she seemed a little bit, her body language seemed like she was ready. Because Robyn has done a few interviews because she has a book coming out, A Song for You, I think it's entitled. It pretty much talks about her life with Whitney Houston and all things Whitney and their friendship and relationship and, so on and so forth. So the book is out now, though, and I'm still on the fence if I'm going to read it. But anyway, so Robyn comes out, right? To me, Robyn looked like she was waiting to meet up with Wendy Williams. And baby, this was a really good segment. So I think she came out and she did shoe cam. And I'm like, girl, Wendy, we are not here for no shoe cam. Robyn don't care. So she was just like, oh, did you pick those out yourself? And Robyn's like, yeah, I do that. Already like her sarcasm. She's ready for Wendy. So Wendy just couldn't wait to get to the romantic relationship that Whitney and Robyn had. She couldn't wait. So I think that Robyn owned this interview. She really did. It's interesting to really see Robyn on Wendy because she talked about Nippy and Robyn all the time. Nippy is Whitney Houston's childhood name. And I call her that because to me, she's a friend in my head. Anyway, so Wendy brought up the phone interview that she had with Whitney Houston. And she said, I had never met Whitney Houston before. We talked on the radio. And Robyn said, you talked about us like you lived with us. And the audience was just like, oh. And Robyn said, you talked about us like you live with us. And she said that she would always hear Whitney Houston say, who is this? Like every time they turned on the radio, radio was like social media back then. And Wendy was like it. Wendy was like, that's how you got your gossip. That's how you heard your latest interviews and stuff like that. So Robyn was saying that one time, Whitney and her basically drove down to Hudson Street. That's where the station was or whatever. And Wendy was like, you guys were going to jump me? And, Robyn's just cool as a cucumber. She was like, no, because we had never seen you and you're always talking about us. And we just wanted to see what you look like so that we can have a chat face to face. So Wendy tried to play it off. Wendy was like, oh, I can't even fight, And she just told her, like, we wasn't trying to fight you. We just wanted to come down, see you face to face and have a talk. Listen, those are two Jersey girls. Wendy's a Jersey girl. She know what's up. Robyn is not going to admit that they were going to go down and basically tell you about yourself. I don't know if it was going to result in a fight. Because like Wendy said, she's not a fighter. But anyway, I thought that was good television. Like, she kept it so real. And I loved every minute of it. That was epic. Like, I'm glad she said that. I'm really glad that Robyn actually said that because I think a large majority of Wendy's audience now don't really know radio Wendy. You know what I mean? And like Wendy is no stranger to people pulling up to the radio station, coming up there to check her. You know, I said in my last video when I was asking what the heck is wrong with Wendy Williams, like Judge Mathis read her for filth. He roasted Wendy on the radio show. You know, Whitney Houston, the phone interview, she told her about herself. Method Man, you know, there was a lot of people that tried to silence her, and she was really like uncouth, to say the least, back in the day. Like, you think TV Wendy is like too much, honey? When she was on that radio, it was a mess. And I did notice throughout the interview that Robyn, she chose her words carefully. Like she thought before she paused, she would think, and then she would answer, which is smart, because Wendy, if you're not privy to how Wendy gets down, Wendy could, you know, trip you up. She tried to do that with Kenya when Kenya came, and she just wants to get like all of the salaciousness and, you know, whatever. It is what it is. But she really chose her words carefully. Like, she was delicate when she talked about being physical, or the time where her and Whitney were intimate, because Wendy wanted to get to that, like, oh, when was the first kiss, or how did you know, she was very delicate. Robyn was very, very delicate, and you could tell that she still has respect for their friendship, even though Auntie Whitney is no longer here with us. You can tell. And I thought that was real smart and wise, because prior to this, she did an interview with Dateline. She did an interview with the Today Show. So they're a lot more conservative than Wendy is. But I think that Robyn was in her element, but she still knew what she was up against, because again, she was very familiar with radio Wendy. This is so interesting that Whitney Houston's best friend came on the Wendy show, and she defended her friend. She didn't say anything out of character. She didn't even say anything negative about Whitney Houston's mother, Cissy Houston. Now, if you remember, after Whitney Houston passed, Cissy Houston did write a book, and Oprah sat down with Cissy Houston. Again, that's Whitney Houston's mother. And Oprah asked her, one of the things that Oprah asked her is, you know, about Robyn, who was Robyn. And Cissy said she didn't like her because she talked too much and she always had something to say. And Oprah also asked her mother if she would have a problem if Whitney Houston came out as gay. And Cissy was like, yup, she would. So it was good to see Robyn speaking positively about Cissy Houston. You know, she talked about how Whitney would talk about her mother, how she was a great singer. And Robyn said in her book, she included some of the songs, I think, that Cissy Houston performed or was a part of. And she spoke kind words about her. She didn't say anything negative. She didn't throw any shade, anything like that. So that was good. And Wendy, you know, you can tell Wendy was trying to steer the interview, which she should, you know, but I think Robyn controlled the interview. You know, she didn't let Wendy force her into an answer. You know, Wendy was like a dog in heat, like she just couldn't wait. And I think Robyn's demeanor and I think Robyn's energy called for Wendy to pipe down, because this is not a game, you know. And like I said, I'm sure they had a conversation before she even came on the show, and Robyn probably told her, look, none of the foolishness. But Robyn was allowed to talk. You know, she actually was allowed to talk. And surprisingly, this is the quietest that I've seen Wendy Williams in a very long time doing an interview. And I think that Robyn's energy basically demanded not only respect, but a level of maturity, and Wendy piped down. And it was good. I was glued to the television for the entire segment. Really good. And, you know, she just went into continuing to talk about Whitney, and you could tell that she loved her unconditionally. And she did speak of Whitney with just love and respect. And she wasn't fond of Bobby Brown. She said this in her Today Show interview. She said that he was annoying. So she wasn't really too fond of Bobby Brown. And she's just telling her story without like compromising their friendship. Like, she just had nothing but positive things to say about Whitney, and I was here for it. And again, you could tell that Wendy wanted to get messy. But Robyn wasn't having it. She talked about where she was when she found out that Whitney Houston passed. She said that she was in a restaurant with her wife, because Robyn is married with 2 children, 2 10-year-olds, a boy and a girl. And she said that she was in a restaurant with her wife and a couple or another lady, that they weren't really too close, but they were having dinner. And she said that her phone kept going off throughout the day, and she had a weird morning. And then the person that she was having dinner with, her phone kept going off, and she answered the call. And, the lady was just like, and she got off the phone and she basically told Robyn, my sister, who's a huge Whitney Houston fan, just said that she passed. So I think Robyn picked up the phone and called like a mutual friend of Whitney's and Robyn's. And she just basically asked her, is it true? And the friend said, yes, it's true. That's sad, and you could tell by her energy that it still affects her to this day. And she said something that I thought was really interesting. She says, in this short period of time, she sitting, in this space, having all these interviews for her book, she says she knew exactly how Whitney Houston feels, like basically always being under a microscope, and this is just a short period of time that she's been under this microscope since she decided to come out with this book. Wendy went on to ask, how does Bobby Brown feel about the book? And she says that she doesn't know. Wendy asked her, do you care? And she just basically said the people whose opinion she pretty much cares about are Whitney Houston, her wife, and her children. So, that's who she's concerned with. And Wendy asked her, why did you write the book? She says, I felt that it was my duty to stand up and share an extraordinary woman behind the amazing talent that she gave us. She's a real person. She deserved to be handled with care and respect. And then Wendy asked her, do you go to the grave? And Robyn said, no, I don't need to go to the grave. She's right here, right here with me. So that was pretty much, that sums up the interview. Oh no, you know what she asked her? She asked her, what does she think about the Whitney hologram? I did a video on that months ago, and I think I'm going to link it above somewhere, or probably at the end of the video. When I heard that Pat Garland was behind this Whitney hologram and it's going on tour, I was immediately ticked off. Like, I really, really was. So check out that video after this one. But Wendy asked her, Wendy says, how do you feel about the hologram tour? This is Robyn's response. She said nothing. And Wendy said, perfect. I can only imagine how she felt that Pat Garland is going to be doing this hologram tour. Anyway, I don't even want to go back there. Watch the video. So what do y'all think about Robyn coming out with this book? I feel like this, right? Pat Garland and everybody else, they were able to tell their story. You understand? Like, they were able to make money off of it. They made, I think, 2 documentaries since Whitney passed. There was one that I watched. I don't even remember the name of it because they all are like named the same. Or I think it's Can I Be Me? Is that the name of it? I think that's the one that I watched. But the Whitney one, I didn't see that. I was not interested in that at all. And there have been a number of books that have come out since Whitney passed. So I feel like there are people who are profiting off of Whitney Houston's, struggles, as well as her passing. So everybody else is telling their side of the story. And why can't she tell her experience, share her experience? To be honest with you, as a hardcore fan of Whitney Houston, I am more inclined to read about Robyn's experience, honestly, because I don't know, just the narrative that the other people have painted of her, I'm not feeling. I've thought that it was very interesting that Cissy Houston pretty much sat by and let Pat create this narrative, you know what I mean, and let Pat tell it. Bobby Brown was the reason why she started doing drugs. That was a narrative that we heard for years. Like, I remember when Whitney Houston started dating Bobby Brown. I remember when they got married, like it was on the cover of Ebony magazine, and they had like the you know, inside the magazine, they had the story and you saw pictures from the wedding and stuff. And people were so upset. They were disgusted. Like, how could she marry? My mother was like, how could she marry that cretin? You know, hilarious. But everybody thought that it was Bobby Brown that was responsible for Whitney's drug abuse. And it was crazy because Bobby Brown said he was aware that people blamed him for that. And he never said anything. You know what I mean? I believe he had his troubles too, of course, but I believe he loved Whitney Houston. I do. I believe Robyn loved her too, you know? And I could also understand like how it would look like, why are you coming out with this book now? You just trying to make money. And it could seem that way on the surface. That's why I made it my business to watch the Dateline interview, the Today Show, and then this interview that I wasn't even expecting with Wendy Williams. So I don't look at it now as her betraying Whitney. I really don't. Like I said, she's very delicate. She doesn't allow any of these interviewers to kind of tell her story. She really reels it in. And, you know, if there's something that one of the interviewers says, she says, no, you know, no, that's not what it is. You know, even when Wendy tried to use the word when you guys were intimate or when you guys were, you know, were sexual with each other, she's just like, that's not the verbiage that she wants to use. And I think that she doesn't want this to be about their intimate as far as physical intimacy. She's not making it about that. And at first, everybody was saying like, oh, you know, this was her girlfriend. This was her girlfriend. And I thought to myself, dang, yo, that's what we're going to do to Whitney's legacy. Like, we're just going to reduce it to her sexual preference. Like, but then watching these interviews, it's not Robyn that's doing that. It's all of these media outlets. All of these media outlets are the ones that are focusing and honing in on their physical intimacy. You know, everybody else, every interview I saw, the 3 interviews I saw, Wendy's included, everyone asked the same exact questions. I wish that I was like in a journalistic position, you know, because there would be some questions that I would ask that none of these interviewers asked. You know what I mean? Like none of them. Well, actually one. I would have wanted to know where she was when she found out. That's one. But I think everybody else is making it about, oh, was Whitney gay? You know, Whitney's gay. This was her gay lover. You know, this was her lesbian. She was a lesbian. Everybody's making it about that because I think that's what gets clicks. That's what gets views. That's what sells newspapers. That's what, you know, I get all of that. But I feel like Robyn has done a great job in all the interviews that I saw not to reduce Whitney to someone that she had a physical, intimate relationship with. Like, I don't get that from her. I think a lot of the interviewers are trying to focus on that and focus on, oh, Bobby Brown drove you away. Like, all of them asked the same question. No one was unique in their interviewing style. And the good thing is, Robyn is very intelligent. She's very well spoken. And she's good at keeping her composure. Because if you saw that Today interview on the Today Show, whoo, you could tell that she was really trying to keep her composure because I don't remember the guy's name. It's a black guy, Mike something or Mike, whatever his name is. He was very harsh and he was very abrasive. He was insensitive, you know, and she kind of politely corrected him. Yeah, so I don't know. I just think, I'm not demonizing Robyn. She has a right to tell her story. You can tell that Whitney Houston still is a major part of her life. You never know. What about the things that she's not talking about in her book or the things that she's not talking about or not being asked in her interview? Like, do you feel at peace? Are there still times where you may have thought like, you guys could have communicated differently? Because the way she says it is that they weren't estranged. This is what the guy on the Today Show said. She confirmed that they weren't estranged. They kept in contact, but she took herself out of the limelight. I'm rambling on, but this, oh God, that Whitney Houston, I'm a huge Whitney Houston fan. Put it that way, like supporter or whatever you want to call it. Like in my head, like this was my big sister, Nippy, you know? But anyway, I really can appreciate Robyn conducting herself in a respectful manner. She was very gracious. She was very sensitive, you know, to Whitney's true fans. I know some are not feeling it, you know, and some can appreciate it. I mean, me being a huge fan, I can honestly say after watching her on 3 separate interviews, I can appreciate it because she repeatedly said how much Whitney Houston loved her fans and appreciated her fans. And I could totally believe that. Whitney was extremely relatable, down to earth, you know, fun. Unfortunately, you know, she succumbed to her addiction, allegedly. And it just sucks because Bobby Christina, her daughter, passed away after Whitney did. So the whole thing is just tragic. It's really, really tragic. And yeah, I have respect for Robyn. I really do. Like I said, everybody else, every interviewer wants to focus on the details of, oh, when did you share your first kiss? What was it like? Did it go further? When did it stop? Why did it stop? Like, everybody wants to focus on that. And it has to be very hard and coming out with this information and everyone focusing on that. But like I said, Robyn is really good. She like hones it in and she kind of gets everybody to shift from the sexual topic to like, this was somebody that I was extremely close with. Like, we were so bonded that it's like, could have been her soulmate. Because I believe soulmates don't necessarily have to be like your husband or your wife or anything like that. Soulmates can be friends, you know? And I really think that Whitney was her soulmate, and they definitely had fun. And the way that she went on the Wendy show and basically like, we were gonna, you know, meet up with you and have a conversation, or yeah, Wendy, you did a lot of talking like you live with us. You know, it's the same way that Whitney would have checked her. Whitney probably would have checked her a little bit rougher, but Robyn conducted herself like a, you know, a woman, a grown woman. Yeah, I think I talked about that. She emphasized how much Whitney loved her fans. Like I said, that meant a lot. Yeah, but Whitney had her flaws. You know, we all do. I choose to remember the Whitney that I fell in love with, you know, all the things that I loved about her, like her being a mom, her being like a good friend, her being an amazing talent, of course, but just being a human being, you know, a human freaking being. And I will always love Whitney. I really will. And like I said, I remember where I was when I found out that Whitney Houston passed. I don't know if I said that already, but I was thinking it. So the fact of the matter is, I mean, I really don't know. I'm hoping that Robyn is not doing this with malicious intent, but I'm a firm believer in, you do something with malicious intent, you'll pay for it. You know, you will. So I'm still on the fence if I'm going to be reading the book. I honestly don't think that I am ready to read the book, only because I just want to remember Whitney from my realm of understanding, you know, what I knew of her, seeing her growing up, you know, as a young Black girl from Jersey myself, and seeing this young Black girl from Jersey also, not too far from where I grew up in Jersey. It's crazy. It's like a quick car ride. It's so crazy. And seeing her just catapult into fame and just being an example, like, dang, yo, look at this. Look at her. Like, she's from, hey, she's not too far from where I grew up or where I'm from in Jersey. You know what I mean? Look at this. And movies and, you know, music that we still listen to this day. So it was very good for me as a young girl to watch that, and just very inspirational, and just seeing her be real. And it's like, wow, like, she's going through this and she's dealing with this, you know, she's a human being too. So, and she wasn't afraid to let people see that, that side of her. So I don't know. I just was in shock when I found out. That's so crazy. And also Robyn too could be like dispelling theories of the people that were around her. I wonder if she got anything about that sister-in-law in her book. I don't know. I want to read it, but then a part of me, I don't. So I'll probably wait till one of my friends read it, or till somebody reads it and reviews it or whatever, and maybe do like a read along. I don't know. I just don't want to be sad all over again, you know, because whole situation was so tragic. And I know I sound like a corny super fan, but I could do a whole video on just what Whitney represented, me being a young black girl. But I won't. I will spare you guys. Be sure to check out my, I think it was Leave Nippy Alone, when I found out that they were doing the hologram. This was like a couple of months back, one of my earlier videos. So check on that. Comment in the video, comment in this video. I'm just rambling at this point, but it's so crazy. I was going to do this video yesterday. And then I was like, okay, well, I got to do it today. And then I'm like, wait, Robyn Crawford is going to be on Wendy? Let me wait until I watch that interview. So I was able to check it out. And I think Robyn did a great job. I hope that that's her last interview. I hope that's her last stop. But she got Wendy together in a subtle way. And Wendy actually behaved herself. And I am totally shocked. So, Royal Family, that's all I got. Get down in the comments. Tell me what you think about Robyn's, coming out with this book. What you think about the Wendy interview, if you saw it. If you saw her Dateline and her Today Show interview, tell me what you thought about that. Get in the comments. Be respectful, as always. Don't have to agree with me. Doesn't matter if you don't. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But you can disagree respectfully. I know you can. Royal Family, like this video. If you like it, get in the comments because I want to hear what you guys have to say. And until next time, peace.